Time to get a no BS opinion on Diablo 4. Make sure to watch to the end.
Let's talk about how I honestly feel in Diablo 4. I've
Okay.
gotten to level 82. I have basically completed my renown at this point. I have got all the altars of Lilith.
Okay.
Obviously beat the campaign and all of that. I'm in world tier 4. My gear is looking pretty stout. I don't really know what left I could really farm at this point other than experience and do the pinnacle boss and, you know, like a few other things at the moment.
Okay.
I farm, God knows, too many legendaries. Done a bunch of PvP. You can see I got some ears in here too. I've been doing PvP. Been playing with friends. I've also been playing solo. So
Okay. All I can say is, like, man, I mean, I've played a fair bit of Diablo 4 and ever since, you know, the early access days, and my main character is at like level 40. Like, all I can say is this guy has way too much free time. That's incredible. So many legendaries already, like level 82 and just all this stuff. Like, whoa.
So I've had a pretty good amount of experience, and this is coming from a druid's perspective. Now, I have seen a lot of feedback related to this game, both extremely positive as well as extremely negative, and I have yet to find too much of good, nuanced conversation around the good and the bad around.
Interesting. Yeah, so I've seen mostly positive, personally. I like the vast majority of feedback I have seen is that this game is good. You know, I have a couple TikToks for this channel, and some of the Diablo ones I've had like very few comments saying stuff like not interested or whatever, but the vast majority is in support of this game. So it's interesting to hear that he's seeing both. I wonder if he's just saying that generally, and it's maybe the same experience that I'm having, like, you know, the vast majority is positive. I don't know. He's making it sound like it's even on both sides, which I am not experiencing. It's interesting to hear that.
This game, I'm going to do my very best to ride that line fairly. So let's talk about the good first and what I like about the game.
Yeah.
I think the game, people say, is overwhelmingly complicated, but I actually think it's fairly decently simple.
Yeah.
I think the skill tree isn't too confusing. It looks very confusing at the beginning, but
especially if you have a good guide. Like, man, I watch Asmongold, and, you know, he recommended, like, you know, checking out Max Roll from that, what's his name, Raxantarax, that YouTuber. And maxroll.gg is actually really good. I really like their guide. It's easy to follow. It's broken down just so simply, man. Like, the skill points, so easy to see, and for what level and what you should be looking for, and if you have to respec for whatever reason. And yeah, it's so easy to follow. Such a good guide. So that's how I play. And yeah, I mean, the skill system is way easy in that regard. And even if you were doing it yourself, I mean, it's all like color coded, and there's nice little like quick excerpts for what they do and what they mean and everything. So even if you were just building your own thing, you could do that pretty easily. Yeah, I think it's pretty simple.
Legitimately, all of these are linear. So this isn't something where you really have to worry about matching things too much. I think the Paragon board looks very confusing until you actually try using it. And then you realize, yes, it's still a little bit confusing, but it's not really as bad as it seems. If you can understand 90-degree angles and turning things, you can basically understand a Paragon board once you actually get your hands on it. Just looking at it, it looks very confusing. The way items work, the way legendaries work, the way uniques work, the way you acquire these all seem decently well explained, though. And I will say there are some things, for instance, like aspects having different tiers. For instance, the ancestral and the sacred being different colors and literally named different. Offensive aspect of the Raging. This is an ancestral legendary, but this one is a sacred legendary. And having absolute, basically, no difference in terms of what these items actually do. I think
that is confusing. That actually is a little bit confusing. Like, okay, I have two brown items, two legendaries, but they have different aspects, and they're just very slightly different, except they do the same thing. What? Yeah, that is confusing. I don't really get that. I'm not at this point, obviously. Like I said, level 40 on my main character, so yeah, I'm not at the point where I'm caring about like aspects on my legendary items or anything yet. But yeah, just from that bit that he's explaining, it doesn't really make sense. So interesting. That's a little note there, I guess.
Can also be extremely confusing as well. For instance, I have very often seen people say things like ancestral legendary aspects are better than normal. See how this one, it goes 1 to 5 seconds and is a maximum row of 5 seconds. But then this is a normal legendary ring that goes 1 to 5 seconds as well. It just says
Hmm.
3 there. And the reason people don't even realize it goes all the way to 5 seconds is because they have their tooltips off. So, and this is by default. So they have their advanced tooltips off by default. Shout out to Rudy Joe
Ah.
actually for informing me about this because I didn't know this originally. And then
Hey, shout out to this guy. Yeah, turn on your advanced tooltips and then you can see everything that you need to see about your items. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
you see it says 3 seconds here as well, and they think that one's lower than my aspect that's 5. So ancestral is higher. And so there's a lot of misinformation and confusion coming from a large amounts of players in the game, and that can get spread.
Okay.
So I do think there are some things that are fairly poorly explained in the game. However, once you understand the fundamentals of the mechanic, it becomes significantly more enjoyable.
Okay.
I do think there is something to be said for the world size. I feel like the actual size of the world, the fact that these Legion events, which by the way, you can farm free horse cosmetic from here that's like a ghost horse, really cool. I think that
Nice.
the actual size of the map is significant when I'm teleporting around the different areas.
Yeah, I would heavily agree in that regard. This map is absolutely massive. Like I can actually spend hours just in the Fractured Peaks area. Like it's crazy how big this map is. There's so much to see. So many hours of content that you can get out of just exploring, checking out all the different dungeons in each area, checking out all the cellars and stuff, and trying to find all of the different spots for event locations and stuff like that. So much to do. So many hours of content if you just enjoy exploring and checking things out and trying new dungeons and stuff like that. It's crazy.
I think that the actual size of the map is significant when I'm teleporting around the different areas. I do feel the variety in terms of what the landscape looks like.
Yeah.
I do think it is fair to say that what a lot of people, the feedback I have read is that people were surprised that so many of the minions look alike. This is true. It is a Diablo game. Hell is running over, and a lot of the demons are twins, apparently. So I do believe that there's something to be said for that. I don't know how you fix that within the ARPG hack and slash genre, to be fair, but I
mean, it's a fair point, I guess. Like, you could definitely put in a little more effort to make some different minions and stuff like that. It's just, it makes it simpler from a game design perspective if you can just kind of just slightly change a color palette or something, but it's still the same rig and model. And so you can just reuse those same animations and rig and model and just change colors slightly, and then it's an entirely new creature or enemy or whatever. It's this version of the enemy now instead of the original or the elite or whatever. And so I don't know. It makes sense from a game design like efficiency perspective, but yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. It's kind of lazy.
do understand that criticism, and I accept that. Now, in terms of the early, mid, and late game, I would like to get into that feedback as well. I think the early game is the most exciting. You're pushing through the story. What you're trying to do is fairly well explained. You're trying to do the yellow stories. They are very easily marked. There is good story dialogue. There is very good voice acting. This is Blizzard after all, so there's also very good cutscenes. Me personally, I found some of the boss fights to be way better than some of the other boss fights. I'll put it that way in order to keep the spoilers free. However,
I can definitely say that as well. I won't say what the boss is called or where you find it, but there's one specific like kind of tree looking boss, I guess I would say, and it's after a couple of the starting bosses that you face, and it is significantly easier than them. And I don't know why. Why does that make sense? Why wouldn't things get progressively harder? I mean, I guess from a game design perspective, it could be interesting or whatever to kind of like have some like hills and valleys to the difficulty. But as a player, I mean, I didn't really enjoy that. I thought that was kind of strange. I was like, wait, what? Why is this boss so easy? Am I just way stronger all of a sudden? No, because I still get smacked by things out in the overworld or whatever. So anyway, I don't know. I thought that was weird.
However, I have heard mixed reviews on the boss fights, so I will take that one under advisement as this is just my own personal opinion.
Fair.
I think it is not clear upon immediately playing the game what to do after the campaign, and I actually believe this is a good thing. I think the fact that it does not immediately tell you go and farm nightmare dungeons, go and max your renown, but instead you get the sense of the world has opened up to you. I
Mm.
actually enjoy that a good deal. I am an
Yeah, I'm in agreement there. It shouldn't handhold you too much, and that feeling, yes, exactly, of like, okay, now I know where everything is. I can go anywhere, and I know the best spots, and I know where I can farm, and I know blah blah blah. Like, this is where all my friends like to go, and so we have a lay of the land. We know what to expect. We know what to look for. We know what to make potions in preparation for stuff like that. Yeah, this all makes sense. It's a good point.
old school RuneScape player. I've played RuneScape since 2001 when it came out from Devious Mud. I'm actually older than I look, to be honest with you guys. So for that reason, I very much enjoy open world. I do not like hand holding. I like
Yeah,
games that give me a character, and I feel like I am brutally trying to survive within the elements around me and
yeah,
figure
yeah.
out what's going on in the game. So I like that. The only thing I don't like is terrible, trashy UIs and bad quality of life. I would say the UIs could be improved. I'm not calling them trashy. I'm saying those are things I don't like. There
Okay.
is aspects of that I don't like. I would say right now,
I to just to rebut this a little bit, I think the UI is actually pretty solid. I mean, I have no issues with it. There's nothing that's like hard to understand or like hard to find. Actually, that is not true. Let me just roll back a little bit on that, just really quickly, and talk about the equipment consumables quest aspects tab. I did not even see that there were tabs there. For some reason, it just wasn't clear to me. I did not know that there were tabs down there for a long time. And then I finally noticed it when a friend of mine was talking about potions around like level 20 or something. And I'm like, wait, where are those? I've kind of been wondering, but I didn't care enough because it was so new and exciting that I wasn't really looking for potions. I was just doing the stuff. But when he brought it up, I was like, wait a second. Yeah, where are the potions? Where do they actually go? Because I don't see it. And I don't know if that's just a me problem, to be fair. But yeah, it was not clear that these tabs were even there and things that you could switch between. I play on controller, so that's why I'm signaling with my triggers. But yeah, that was just one note that I would say with the UI. But otherwise, I think it's pretty clean and solid.
having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 gym slots all slotted up with gems is extremely annoying. Having no gym bag is extremely annoying. And having
Okay.
inventory space, you guys saw already my, let me walk over here and show you. You guys already saw my storage stash. And having a storage stash that is completely full with legendaries is very annoying. You might think, okay, this sounds like suffering some success. Oh, damn, you got so many legendaries, fuck you. But that's not what I'm saying. I cannot not pick these up if I want to. These are forced to be picked up to me. Unfortunately, I'm going to turn the alerts off so I don't keep spamming. Unfortunately, here, these are forced for me to acquire. The reason
I mean, again, I guess because I'm not at that stage of the game, I don't really know how much this problem would affect me. I can sympathize, I guess, and say like, oh, that probably sucks. But yeah, not from experience, so I'm not really sure. I'm not sure how this would actually affect me, and how I would feel about it. I mean, in other games, I do always hate when there's like storage issues. So I can say that if this is a real issue, it would bother me as well. But so far, I haven't really experienced that, just because I haven't really been overwhelmed with legendaries yet. I definitely get overwhelmed with rares at the stage that I'm at, and I find myself, scrapping them or selling them. So they're not really an issue that in that regard either. But yeah, not really there yet. But I can sympathize and understand what he's saying.
is if a legendary drops in the field and I do not want that legendary and I leave the dungeon, when I go to my stash, that legendary shows up right here. And it
Right.
gives me two options. I can either put it in my inventory or I can put it in the stash. Does not give me an auto salvage ability, does not give me anything like that. Also,
Ooh.
the stash has no
I like the idea of like an auto salvage option. Like that should totally be included. I think that just makes sense. Anytime you can kind of like optimize or make more efficient the player's time, I feel like that's a good thing. So if you are just if it's if the legendaries are automatically showing up anyway, then there should also be an automatic option for like salvage or whatever, right? It just makes sense.
no way for me to filter or search through basically forcing me to go and hit the sort button in order to make them sort by type and then look through all the chest plates, etc., until I find one I want. So very often what I
Yeah.
find myself
Yeah.
doing is not wanting to look through 3,000 different items to find min-max rows from these tiny little texts that my eyes are blurring from playing the game 24 hours a day literally anyway. So instead I'm just crunching everything and not...
Maybe play the game less, dude. No. I understand. I think this is like his job, or he's made it into his job to, review or give info or how-tos or guides on this stuff, or tips and tricks or whatever. So, I mean, I get it, but dang, yeah. Talk about first world problems, am I right?
giving a fuck. So I think that is probably some poor gameplay design in terms of the stash and the UI with these
I can
items.
see that. I can see that.
That is going to be probably my primary negative feedback. There's one other point I would like to make, which is the dungeons. There are a lot of them. You are not required to clear all of them, but there are plenty of codexes here I have already done, as you can see, and there are plenty more still left to acquire. I do like the variety of having the legendary aspects at a minimum row. I think that's smart. So there is still a way and a reason to farm normal legendaries and not just use codex for everything. But this also makes certain builds more viable early and allows certain types of players to be able to build certain types of classes earlier than otherwise would have been possible with just pure RNG of getting the legendary items. This is almost like sort of being able to craft legendaries or set items from Diablo 3. This is the way of guaranteeing certain items. I think this was probably a necessity to keep players encouraged because of the difficulty of the game. Now,
yeah, I like any systems like that in games where it's kind of like designed to kind of help the player more. I think this is just a win, what he's talking about. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. And like dungeon variety, I think that's been a demand ever since like Diablo 3 and all of the expansion content and everything. I think that was a huge gripe that there wasn't a lot of different dungeons, and there's tons in this game. So I don't know. I think it's a good thing.
speaking of the difficulty of the game, I've seen mixed opinions. I've seen people speaking that the game plays very slow, that the gameplay is very hard, it is very brutal, and I enjoy that, is what people will say. Then I will see people that say this is way too easy, I'm blasting through everything. I got to Endgame in 2 days, and I don't understand what I'm supposed to do now. So my addressing to these points is... really, I have multiple points to this, but I'm going to start with the most obvious, which is that players like me who are playing 24 hours a day in order to actually either make content creation on this or learn the entire game before the casual player in order to explain things to the casual player for the sake of media like YouTube views and Twitch growth, etc.
Right.
We are not the standard players and should not be balanced around. The game should be balanced around the casual dad who comes home after a long day of work. He has kids that are yelling. He wants to sit down with his 1 beer a day and play for 2 hours.
That is so true. That is so true, because that is the vast majority of the revenue that Blizzard is getting, I'm pretty sure, right? Like, I can speak pretty confidently to that. I'm also one of those specimens. But yeah, it's the guys that come home after a long day of work, or, for me, a long day of watching the kiddo. And hey, I got an hour or two. I want to sit down and blast through some Diablo 4. And so it really should be balanced around those players who are not so into the game, like 9 layers deep, min-maxing everything. Everything is super efficiently figured out, and they're like spreadsheets, and like everything's itemized and categorized. No, it should be like, hey, the guy that sits down, I just want to be able to clearly see what item's better or worse, select that item, and I want to go blast through a dungeon. Let's go. Yeah, I completely agree with him there.
I think that is the target audience, because this is now Diablo. The majority of the people playing this are in 30 to 45 age bracket. They're old school gamers that enjoy the game very much, and they do not have 24 hours a day to play this game.
Right.
So I do believe that while I agree it is possible for people like me to get to the point of now all I'm doing is essentially grinding the same thing over and over again very quickly, I do not believe that should be in the conversation in terms of overall complete balance.
Yeah.
I think very often the casual average game player, because I know there's hardcore community in these games, I understand, I myself am one. Again, I play RuneScape, takes the most hours out of any game, the max, okay? That's just true. I understand that there is audience for these things, but the vast majority of players are not the 1%, like maybe you, the viewer, who
Right.
is a very good long-term PC hardcore gamer. That is a small percentage of the players, and the most players are probably never even going to hit level 82. I don't
Completely fair. Yeah. And I just want to point out as well that this game really is kind of like really nicely geared around that average gamer that he's talking about, the average dad or whatever. Like so many points I'm so happy with, like especially the fast travel. It's just so nice and so easy. There's so many points across the map where you still have to travel a little bit so that you have to be engaged with the world a bit, but dispersed enough that you can get pretty much everywhere you need to go relatively quickly, with all of those fast travel points, and then obviously mounts and things like that. So I don't know. I'm really happy with that aspect of the game. It's so easy to fast travel, and then if you're in a party, you travel to your friends and blah blah blah. All of that is really nice and really easy. I really appreciate that about the game.
players are going to farm all 180 or something altars of Lilith that I farmed in order just to get the +2 strength on each type of one of these. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. That's not happening. I mean, it's weird. Like sometimes I get into completionist modes where I realize there's all these things that I could be, working towards and trying to complete, and I will try for a while and then I get burnt out. That's me personally. And it's just because I don't have that level of time and, time to commit to all of those types of things. So I start it and I'm just like, man, I really just want to get back to the story so I can actually do something that I can complete in the free time that I have. Yeah, so there's no way. I'm definitely not one of those people that's going to go around to each altar of Lilith, do each little challenge or whatever. I just want to like experience some dungeons, do the story, try to get to Endgame. Boom. That's my experience.
Nor do I see the average player going into the Paragon board and spending 15 hours of their day while they drink their one beer to be able to figure this out. I do think
Exactly.
what we will see is a vast majority of those casual players looking up a couple guides, a couple of tips and tricks. I myself have seen those search terms coming through. I know you guys are looking for them, figuring out the game on that level, and then playing through a pre-planned build.
Right.
I think that's going to be a lot of players. However, in my personal mind, this would be a mistake. And the reason I say this is this game is actually, I think, very well suited for that casual type of player. I think the world tiers, seeing that there's only...
I can't tell if he's saying that my method of playing on a build is a mistake or if something else is. I'm trying to figure that out.
4 of them, meaning every time you go from a world tier, it feels like a significant accomplishment. When you start in world tier 1 and then you bump up to world tier 2, and again, if you're min-maxing, you should start in world tier 1 as it is going to be faster and you will blast through it faster so you can get to tier 3 faster and you skip to its entirety.
Oh.
But if you are the average user, you will start in maybe 1.
So I just learned something there. I didn't know that. I didn't know that it would actually be faster just to blast through tier 1 and then skip 2 and go to 3. I had no idea about that.
I think this is too easy, or maybe you just don't want to blast through things. You go to 2, and then each and every minion is going to feel like its own challenge, and that might actually be something that you enjoy personally.
I do enjoy that. That's where I'm at. We started, me and my friends, we started on 2, and every group of enemies where there's like a couple elites or the harder, bigger ones, man, those are fun. Those are challenging little groups, and we have fun with each one. And maybe someone gets knocked each time, or maybe a couple of us. You never know. But it's a more enjoyable experience, I think, than just blasting through everything on World Tier 1. And that's how we prefer to go about it.
Personally, I also think that the discoverability of this game is insane. I think when you walk around the world and you discover these different dungeons, the different players that you'll see, the different events that will happen.
Completely
you'll notice
agree.
The codexes that will have rewards in them, even quests that are sort of hidden. Like, for instance, I have some areas I haven't even uncovered yet, and I've been playing the whole time. I think that is a fantastic addition to a Diablo game. I have played Diablo 3 significantly, and in my time playing Diablo 3, I felt like every single map was basically a linear path. It is me walking down a sidewalk to get somewhere, whereas in this, I actually do feel like I'm on a map. I'm on a landmass. I'm on a...
Yeah, yeah, definitely. The Diablo team with this game really worked out a better way to do kind of open world. It's not super linear. I guess that's just the best way to put it. It's not super linear, right? You don't just go down a path and oh, I'm at the next town and oh, there's the next dungeon. You know, right? Just leading you on this very direct route to from one point A to B to C like you would expect. It doesn't do that, and you have to kind of walk around and figure things out and find where they are. And I like that more. I do.
A area, a state, whatever you want to call it. I'm in a world.
Yeah.
Is what it actually feels like. That is a step up in terms of environment, which I think is heavily important for the average player.
Yeah.
I think that's heavily important to feel like you're within an actual world. I
Right.
think this is doubled down by the fact that when you're walking around on the map, you'll also very much experience unique type of monsters. So they'll have like a star that will show up and have a unique monster, and also the side quests, which are crucially important, by the way, for min-maxers for renown. You'll want to do these blue quests. Don't sleep on them. It's a mistake I made. I also believe that these side quests do a good job at getting you to areas that you don't normally go. Like,
Yes.
you tell me what's right here other than Altar of Lilith that's down there. There's nothing here. So in order
That's a good point. Yeah, the blue side quests are really good. They get you to explore areas that you might not normally, just in your average or in your normal like random exploration, or where the story quests do not take you, right? So yeah, the blue side quests really do help you kind of, hey, I want to explore and see more of the map, but I don't really know which direction to go in, but I got some side quests to do. Oh, it's taking me into all these little nooks and crannies of the map that I didn't even know about, and I get to see more of the game. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
to get you there, they got a side quest to get you there to experience that. I also think the fact that after you beat the campaign, you can make a new character, skip the campaign, and start in multiple different regions is actually a very great quality of life for people.
I didn't know about that either. I'm revealing a lot about how much I don't know right now. To be fair, I'm a complete casual. I'll own up to it, right? I'm not some hardcore Diablo gamer, right? So yeah, I didn't know about that at all. I didn't do a ton of research into the game. I just was excited because I knew I liked Diablo from Diablo 3. Was a casual then too, so it's just kind of carried through, I guess. But yeah, that's really cool. You can finish and then start new characters and start in completely different regions if you want to. That's awesome. I think that's a huge quality of life thing. Yeah, this game is great. Like I it's just convincing me more and more as the more that I listen to this guy. That's awesome.
People that play through the game, beat the campaign, and then just want to try a new class because they're not trying to go the level 100 and min-max one class. Level 100 takes a very long time. The experience leveling in this game is very different than some of the previous games. And so for that reason, I think this was also a good addition.
Yeah.
I also want to mention that I'm seeing a lot of people get very angry about balance changes. I myself did sort of a half-hearted meme video on the...
I cannot understand why people get so mad about games. Like, guys, it's just a game. I understand that it's a big escape for a lot of people. I mean, it's an escape for me as well to a certain degree. But like literally just balance changes. I mean, do we really want things so much more broken than other things that it's just not even fair to, or like fair in comparison? Do we really want that? I think balance changes are a good thing, especially for a game like this where it's so like people are so into min-maxing it and into like building out the spreadsheet. Well, some people, right? The hardcores. Like it's a good thing to have balance changes, just like in competitive games, right? Oh man, I don't know. That's a weird point for me. I don't know how to feel exactly about that, but I would say in general, balance changes are good.
Druid balance changes. I was kind of joking around, but at the most part, I thought Druid legitimately, I was surprised with the nerfs. Even people like me who are complaining about nerfs to classes for the in-game.
Yeah.
My opinion, while it may matter, does not matter as much as balancing the game around the average user and what they experience.
True.
And I think that average user, the changes were probably for the best.
Yep.
I think trying to make sure that some classes are not so complete outliers that
viable. He means let's make more classes viable. Everybody should not just be Whirlwind Barbarian. I'll admit it, even though I love the Whirlwind Barbarian. It's so fun. But yeah, I don't know. I think these balance changes are good.
that every single person feels like if you don't play this class, you're just stupid. I hate it in games when I join a game and everyone's like, you're playing that class? What a loser. I hate that personally. I think I really enjoy being.
What's up with this, gamers? Why are you being all classist within a video game? We have enough of that in real life. Oh man, do you enjoy rolling up next to the guy with a Lambo and staring down at you because you're in a Honda Civic? No, don't be like that. Come on, guys.
Being able to feel like I identify with my character, which this game does very well. When I'm playing Druid, I wanted to play Druid because I wanted to shapeshift. I wanted to be a bear.
Yeah.
Mostly. That was like 90% of my reason. I also wanted to be a wolf. That was the other 10%. I got what I wanted. It happens to be the class is actually quite good. And that both of those builds, by the way, Stormwolf actually seems like it has some. I have all of the uniques now for the Druid. I will do a video on this, but Stormwolf seems like it has something coming. I have some footage of this.
Okay.
So, in my own opinion, where I'm going with this, and you're probably seeing me mention quite often, is this game is probably a 7 out of 10 for min-maxers, maybe a 6 out of 10. For people that want to grind through, blast the 100 and all that.
Okay.
I find those people, the conversations I'm having with those players, are getting bored quicker than they expected.
Well, to be fair, I mean, 7 out of 10, that's passing, right? No, whatever, man. I mean, yeah, the game is not really geared and shouldn't be geared, especially from a business perspective, towards those min-maxers. It should not be, because they are not the mass majority of revenue for this company. It really should be geared towards the casuals from a business perspective and from my own selfish perspective. No, but seriously, it just makes sense. And, I mean, if they're getting bored, there's always Path of Exile. There's always other games they could dive into if they're really bored of it. These content machines that do all this min-maxing and grinding and all this stuff. But I think the game is great. Even from a min-maxing perspective, like, there's still a lot to the game. I could understand that if you're into these type of games all the time, you might get bored if it's not different enough or there's not enough aspects of whatever. But I don't know. I think it's good overall. That's what I got to say.
However, for the average gamer, the 30 to 45-year-old dad who has a couple hours a day, I'm finding them enjoying the game even more than they expected.
Exactly.
So there's a yin-yang balance. I think they sacrifice some of the focus on this hardcore community in order to engage a little bit more of the average old school gamer who maybe doesn't have as much ability to be that hardcore gamer that they fell in love with gaming in the beginning. I think,
and this may be a hot take, but I think that was the right choice, honestly. Like I said, from a business perspective, and let's be honest, Bobby Kotick, right? They're all about the business side. They're all about making that dough. That was the best choice because they're appealing to the mass majority of the player base instead of the 5-10% who are super hardcore and care so much about there should be way more to this. It's not deep enough, blah, blah, blah. No, I enjoy my casual experience. It feels really good. You guys have done a great job at that. Keep doing the balance changes, keep doing all this stuff and making it better. And your casual player base loves it. You're doing good, Blizzard. This is a W. This is a W, Blizzard. Good job. And I don't like saying good job because it's Blizzard, but hey, you earned it for this one. Well, what do you guys think about Diablo 4 after hearing about it from a hardcore player? Let me know what you think in the comments. Leave a like, a subscribe, and I will see you next time.